Hi everybody, welcome to Sunya IAS. So if you're preparing for the Indian Forest Services exam, roughly 30 days are remaining for your exam. So here are some tips from my side to help you ace more marks. Now, the exam starts with the English and the GK paper on the 24th of November. And then you have the different optionals. Let's say many of you would have the first optional, let's say on the 28th and one on the 29th. Okay. So we have approximately 1 month to go. So what we can do now, here also whatever time you are putting in, maximum time has to go in these two optionals. Many of you would be having forestry as the common optional, which has a compact syllabus, more doable in nature. So you should do the other optional equally well. Perhaps even if you were giving, let's say 8 hours, 9 hours, your 60 to 65% time should also go to your second optional. Okay. Now, those of you who already had an overlap, let's say you had a maths optional, you also give the civil services exam, then of course you can maximize the second optional. But again, I'm speaking about a lot of students who have humanities as an optional, and when you have to juggle both the optionals, you sometimes tend to lose out on, let's say, agriculture, engineering, geology and other options, right? So again, do not lose out on this optional if you are preparing, and give adequate time here, followed by the time here. Okay. In case you have not yet started English or GK, again, no need to panic. For English, even if you start now or perhaps even 1 or 2 weeks even later, and even if you give, let's say, 30 minutes a day, all you have to do, you have to be familiar with the format of the letter, report. Now, here English, when you write the essay, you are not, let's say, rewarded more on the content, but actually on the grammar and the syntax that you use. Okay. So this also can be done. The high scoring part in English can be, or the defining part can be the grammar, which is of 50 marks. Okay. So your best bet has to be that 30 minutes a day, maybe in the last 2 weeks, or even from now if you want to start, maybe just before winding up, you can just have a look at the previous year question, just be familiar, because again, English is very high scoring. The point is you have to maximize the marks in each as much as you can. Fine. Now, when we talk about GK, if you've already attempted the most recent civil services exam, you would be very thorough with most of the current affairs. So don't have to spend too much time here. If you want to emphasize, you can revise in the last 2 weeks or so history, go through the current affairs specifically related to science and technology, environment. Okay, because these have more weightage. You have to know, you have to attempt 24 questions here. So try to maximize this, because generally history, because it's factual, more factual in nature. So here it is better to go through, and here a lot of focus is given on the administrative history. So again, your best bet should also be again the previous year questions. For science and tech, for environment, you can go through the current affairs magazine for the last, let's say, 1 year or the 6 months. That can also sail you through. For other parts related to, let's say, polity or even parts of geography or economy, the basic knowledge that you already have will be good. Try to maximize as much as you can. The use of diagrams, flowcharts that you would generally do will help you out. Okay. The split that you may think that you want to score somewhere around 280, 290, 300 marks or even more combined from English and GK. Okay. Now this also depends on the kind of marking happens. Okay. Because last year, when I say 2023, the marking for GK was more tougher in nature. So these calculations may change here and there. Now coming about these two optionals. Okay. So even if you're scared, and some of you may be also thinking that you have less time, you lost some time after the civil services exam. So here, leave everything aside, leave all your guilt. What you have to do, you have to know the syllabus and previous year questions. Even if you do this, you have still done a lot of chunk, right? So for each of the sections, you should be thorough with the syllabus. For some sections, if it is too much in detail, you don't have to go in too much of depth, because right now it's not the time. And I'm specifically talking of people who only have this 1 month. Okay. Let's say you exhausted all of your leaves, and now you are working, you have limited time. Your best bet has to be the previous year question. Try to brainstorm as much as you can. You may start with 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Slowly, steady, you will get better. Second, don't assume the kind of fluency that you have in your civil services optional. Here, you will feel underconfident. There may be some of you who have already given multiple mains. They have done the optional extensively. They also prepared for 5 months. Again, I'm not speaking for those sections, because you would have done a lot. You would have read perhaps more books, better notes. You have made your own notes. So you will be in a very good position. Again, the audience, a large audience which gives the exam right now, would have just maybe done one reading each or even struggle to complete one. Okay, and when even if you've done one reading, you are wondering, I have read, I'm familiar with the topics, but I don't think I'll be able to write. Okay, so that is also a fear that lingers on. So what to do with that? So here are the most common questions that you have asked me on phone or on text, etc. So I'll just address all of them, which will also give you a way on how to maximize and use the coming days. Okay, so number one, can I still clear if I start now? Assuming you only have 30 days and you're starting with these any two optionals, and if you do not have a background, you have to put in, you have to slog a lot. If you've done some portions, it is beneficial. Okay, so if your best bet has to be your hard work, okay, whatever, how much you can put in, that should be there without doubting yourself too much. Please remember, the competition for forest services and for civil services is very different. Here, the people who have broadly covered the subjects, if you're able to attempt, have a good attempt, you are generally rewarded better, because again, these are technical areas, right? If you have numericals, try to attempt more numericals, you will directly get the marks for that, right? Because again, no ambiguity or no subjectivity like the humanities. Okay, so instead of too much of doubt, if you are starting, try to put in all that you have. Okay, focus on the two optionals and more on the optionals you are weaker in. Okay, so cover that, and of course, let's say if you have forestry, you can balance it out. So that is the first part, right? And here of, if you have specific issue, let's say in case of forestry, you can also reach out to me. We can also discuss how to bridge the gap and how can you cover it in the least possible time right now. Okay, second, struggling to cover the two optionals, here again I've told you, no need to go into a lot of PhD or the bulky books at this point of time. You have to, your focus has to be to clear the exam. 5 years PPYQ, if you are very short in time, if you have more time, maybe 7, 8, 9, 10, depending on how much you can do. So that you should do. Okay, of course, you can also cover some toppers notes or additional book or content, but only after you have done this. Okay, so this, because you are again running against time. Third thing, this is something everybody faces who has given the exam, and also, and again, right now when you have asking me that you have read the subject once, perhaps just a very quick glance, maybe you've done culture, some of these aspects, but you are not able to recall. Okay, second, all the time goes into optionals when to revise. So here one simple point I'll tell you, if you're not able to recall, that is okay, right? Because you have 1 month to go. Don't think of just 1 month, think in weeks, think in days, think in hours, and think in minutes. Every minute is an opportunity to remember one of the species, any technical name, right? Because ultimately you have to see your preparation on 29th, let's say if you're talking of forestry or any other optional, right? So don't need to catastrophize that things would not work out, etc. You still have a month, be hopeful, you can do that. Second, what about revision at this point of time? Generally, I would say that if you have, let's say you're studying for 8 hours a day, read for 7 hours or maybe 10 hours, but at least have 1 hour for revision, where you again and repeat things to yourself. Because for most of you, these optionals are going to be very new. So instead of every day just consuming new information, take some time also to rest and sink that information in. Okay, so let's say if I talk specifically for forestry, so when you are doing, let's say, so try to remember some of the trees, the species name, okay, some of the terms, the definition of those terms. That is the static and the more factual part of the syllabus. Okay, similarly, let's say you're doing geology, so be it minerals, crystallography, or let's say you're doing agri engineering, you should be having a very simple basic list of the formulas that you're going to use in paper 1A, 1B, 2A, etc. Okay, some derivations that are generally very repeated. Okay, if you really want to hack in very short span of time and toppers before you, and maybe right now some of you are watching would also do it in the exam, you have to hack. Okay, the best way to hack is to see the pattern and try to understand the pattern. Okay, so for that, the best bet always is previous year questions, okay, followed by whatever topics you can go through. Fine, so that you should do. For revision, I would suggest, let's say, 1 hour a day if you are able to manage. If you're not able to manage right now, no issues. Many of us will only be revising the last few, let's say, days or the last few weeks. Okay, because right now you have to cover so much, so that is also fine. But have some space for recall or revision in your day if possible. Now, the aspects related to answer writing, is the answer writing different, or all the issues related to the answer writing, right? So here, at least the students for forestry, I have uploaded a very detailed video that is on test 1 of the forestry test series, which pertains to section 1A, which again is overall silviculture, general silviculture systems. Specifically, students have a lot of issues in related to, let's say, phenology of Indian trees, etc. All the aspects related to that, you can just watch that video. Okay. Second, do you have enough time to write answers? Let's say you are already done with one optional, then of course you can invest some time here. But let's say you are doing both the optionals, you're juggling with time. So here, first of all, try to cover the content. If time permits, when you see the previous questions, I'm not asking you to write them again and again, but what you can do perhaps is brainstorm the points. I'm emphasizing and stressing a lot on brainstorming because that would really help you out. It will also at least give you a sense of satisfaction that yes, you're able to generate some points, you know, certain examples. That always helps, right? So that is one. And of course, if you still get time, let's say for forestry in the Telegram groups, etc., I've already shared some questions and even the particular papers. If you're writing directly, send it out to the group in which we've already added the students who are writing the exam. So for that, you can easily get the feedback from my side also if you want to do so, if you're able to manage the time, right? Then how to maximize the attempts in terms of attempting the question. So here you will not have an issue of time crunch. You will be able to do so. But I say how to maximize the attempts. My point is you should try to maximize as much as you can. Don't leave a big weak link. Okay. And even if there's a weak link, please remember you have to attempt only 5 questions out of 8. Okay. So then you have to strategically prioritize. Okay. This may be a part of my weak area. So I need to make another area strong. Okay, that generally happens. Let's say maybe in forestry there's a part you're not able to understand, maybe it's very factual. So let's say it can be the silviculture of Indian trees for some of you, right? So then the other 3 portions, mangrove, silviculture systems and generals, they should be really solid. Okay, that let's say even if you lose out 8 or 10 marks in the part of silviculture of trees, you get the other marks from the other papers, right? So again, try to balance things out. Okay, you again are on a war footing. I can totally empathize with the lack of time and again with the Diwali coming in, etc. But here you have to try to be composed and just put sincere efforts. You will also be surprised. Okay, because generally you will get decent marks for the efforts you are putting in. Okay, so I hope these queries I am able to also address, right? Here for forestry, if what should you maximize in these coming days? So here at least be thorough with the definitions. Okay, in every part 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, there are basic simple definitions. Every year these are being asked. Okay, so try to have simple definitions. Okay, in one page. If you're not able to write it, maybe take a pictures and have it collated in one area. Okay, definitions will surely help you. This is also one thing that you should keep an eye on. We also do it for GS. Okay, so wherever if you see diagrams that you can draw, have a list of it. Case studies if you are able to, and then examples. And of course for forestry we generally would mean the different name of tree species with proper nomenclature. Okay, following all the standards you should do. So focus not on having too much of validation, but actually now the time is to remember it and replicate it in the exam hall to get the maximum marks. Okay, because otherwise what would happen, let's say you've seen a lot of notes here and there. Okay, in our also channel we have also uploaded one of the toppers notes. You can also go through that. Okay, that can also give you an idea. But now try to, let's say if you spend in 15-20 minutes just to cram some of these elements. Okay, and again I'm emphasizing this goes without saying, start with let's say the paper of 2023. Okay, at least the 5 years papers. After you're done with some sections, try to see whether you are able to generate or come up with points. Let's say if you're struggling, especially let's say with respect to forestry, my number etc is already available. You can directly reach out also. Let's say you give a synopsis, these are the points you're able to think out. I'll also assist you in that. Okay, but this is something I would want and encourage you to do. It will have a lot of benefits. Okay, because see, if you yourself are setting the boundary of this is the syllabus, somebody sets a very big boundary. Even if your boundary is small, you will be able to replicate or revise more. Okay, and here you will see every year this is a trend that almost you will see more than half of the paper would always be derived from the previous year questions, and even more than that. Fine. So why should we miss out? So we'll try to do that as much as possible. Fine. So with that said, try to maximize and make the best use of these 30 days. First think in terms of weeks, then in terms of days, then in terms of hours. Okay, and don't let the panic or the anxiety get too much out of you. Okay, if it really gets too much in your head, again you are more than welcome, feel free to reach out and have a word. Okay, in addition to this, if you feel that you could maybe benefit from the test series discussions that we have, or perhaps the crash course or the video lectures etc., And if you just want to reach out, perhaps if you want to want an access maybe at a discounted part or any assistance on that front, you can also reach out. We'll try to work out what best can be done on that front also. And here I'm speaking for the forestry optional, okay, because that is what we have. In addition to that, if there's any mentorship or any guidance that you need at this point of time, anywhere close to the exam, each one of you who is watching this or maybe watching at a later date, you are more than free to reach out. Okay, if I'm not able to reply immediately, I'll also just tell you at what time I'll be available, and then we can also connect. Fine. So with that said, again wishing you the very best in advance. Of course, I'll try to meet you again in the coming days, again once if there is a need. Okay, and maybe some other questions and how to write, or maybe some of the value additions I'll also try to share with you. Okay, so wishing you all the very best. Thank you.